Depending on which study you look at, more than half, it's really sad, more than half of student pilots quit. I think some of it might be due to financial reasons, but I think a lot of it is because of this graph right here. It's the emotional cycle we go through when change is happening or we're pursuing a new opportunity. You've got your optimism or pessimism level here on the left and time across the bottom. So we usually start out with uninformed optimism about something. You don't know what you're getting into, but you're pumped about it. Then you start the process and reality starts to set in. Once you realize the work and all the study and effort and commitment involved, and then you kind of land in informed pessimism. You become a little pessimistic and you have reason to be that way. And then the slump happens. It's that dreaded middle part, a valley of despair where you have an appreciation for the difficulty of the work you're doing and an appreciation for how much work is left. So it's like being in the middle of a race and you're getting tired, but you still have a long way to go. It's that feeling. But if you can push through this valley, things get better. You then reach informed optimism, believing you can accomplish the goal, and the end, starts to become closer in sight, and you get a second win. You get a new wave of energy. And so then that allows you to push through completing the goal and then ultimately having success and fulfillment. If you don't anticipate this could very well be the reason that you quit. And so here are 3 key areas that I see people struggling, because I struggle with them myself, and really simple strategies to help combat that discouragement. First is learning to fly the actual airplane. And this happens at different times for different people. For some people, this happens 5 hours in where you're just completely overwhelmed and you're like, what did I get myself into? Can I even do this? For other people, it might happen 30 hours in. It can happen, a decent way into your training when you're just really, really struggling with crosswind landings or something like that. And it's totally normal. So there are a few key things that I think will really help you get through that valley of despair. The first is that I think you really need to set smaller goals for yourself. I know when we first sit in the cockpit, our goal is, I want to become a pilot, or I want to solo. Like, these goals are pretty far down the line. And that is accurate. Like, that is the end goal. But if your goal number 1 is the finish line, like your goal is the end, that's pretty far away. And so I think to build confidence and momentum and optimism, you need to set much smaller goals for yourself. Maybe goal number 1 can be just learn what all the buttons and gauges and switches and knobs are in the cockpit. Basically, just be able to learn what you're looking at in the airplane. That could be your only first goal. So if you can move the goalposts closer to where you are and celebrate those wins along the way and don't beat yourself up over the stuff you can't do yet, you're going to have so much more optimism that's going to carry you through. The second thing that will help your optimism is that you're going to have to be willing to be bad at first. And I think the older we are, the harder that this is. When we're kids, it's pretty easy to do this. You're learning soccer, you're learning golf, you're learning whatever, and you don't know how bad you are at it. It's like your parents knew, but you didn't really know. You're like, oh, this is cool, I'm playing. And then eventually you're like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for 4 years and I'm pretty good at it. But as adults, I think a lot of us have narrowed down our life to really just doing the things we're comfortable with and the things that we're good at this point. And so it can be a total shock when we show up to the airplane and we realize, oh my gosh, I'm not cut out for this. But if you just treat it like you did when you were a kid, and you're like, I don't know, I'm having a blast, I'll get good at it eventually. That's such a difference in your attitude that can carry you through, and it's way harder once you're an adult. So I think you're just gonna have to kind of embrace it for a while. And this is really, really important. I want you to tell yourself that I want this so badly that I am willing to be bad at it in order to become good at it. And then you just have to stick with it long enough. So if you can tell yourself, I want this so bad that I'm willing to be bad at it in order to become good at it, and I'm willing to stick with it, you'll get there. But I can tell you from experience, I promise that this moment of going from pessimism back to optimism is coming. And the most important thing is you don't want to quit before that happens. Another area new pilots struggle with is talking with air traffic control. And I get so many comments and emails from people saying that they are in the valley of despair on this one. And so I know it's real and I've been there myself, but here are a few things that can help. First, remember that pretty much all of ATC communications can be boiled down to this cadence. It's just who you are, where you are, and what you want to do. And if you can remember that, then you can piece together the right ATC calls. Secondly, I think you need to compare learning ATC communications with learning a new language. It's obviously easier than literally learning Spanish, but think about it. It's a new language. They're new terminology, new cadences that you're not familiar with. And so if you were learning Spanish, it would be unreasonable to expect to be speaking in full paragraphs after your first lesson. No, it's a new language. I don't know what I'm doing. And I think it's okay to just admit that with ATC and just say, I don't know what I'm doing. But remember, it's who you are, where you are, and what you want to do. I think if you can take the pressure off, I put so much pressure on myself that everything I want to do, I want to immediately be good at it. And if I'm not immediately good at it, I'm not comfortable doing it in public, like playing piano or whatever it is. And I think if we can just release ourselves of that, not take ourselves too seriously, and realize this is a new language, so it's going to take some reps before I'm fluent, it's going to help your encouragement level. And the third tip to remember is these 2 secret words when talking to air traffic control. Here they are: student pilot. The AIM even mentions this as a tip to end your first transmission with ATC with student pilot. And in my experience, controllers and other aircraft will immediately give you more assistance. They usually talk slower and they just generally make it easier on you. So don't be afraid to say that. So you can just end your, you don't have to do it on every transmission, but your first transmission with that controller, saying you're requesting for takeoff or whatever, blah, 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 ready for takeoff, runway 14, VFR to the east, student pilot. Or you can say student solo. That's all you have to do, and they're magical words. And then another area new pilots get discouraged with is learning all of the ground school material. This valley of despair is real because there truly is so much to learn. So here's some things that can help. First, if you're taking a video course to learn all this stuff, you really need to also be taking your own notes in addition to watching the videos. When I got my commercial last year, I was going through the video course, and I got my private like a long time ago, back in 2007. But I was realizing that like a lot of the commercial was more or less overlap or review from the private. And so I was watching these videos. I'm like, oh, I kind of already know that. I'm familiar with that, whatever. And so I wasn't really taking notes, which worked for a few videos. But then once I was like dozens of videos in, I thought, oh shoot, my brain is saturated. And like I knew the general stuff or the general, regulations or whatever, but there might be some specific nuance that I just I couldn't remember. So once I started taking practice tests, I was getting like low 80s or something. I'm like, I know this stuff. I'm just forgetting the ultra specific part. And once it's A, B, or C, I forget which one exactly it is or whatever. I was like, crap. So I had to go back, take notes of all this stuff, and it would have been so much more efficient just to do that the first time. So if you're watching video courses, don't forget that you still have the responsibility to ultimately build your own study guide, because watching all of those videos over and over and over is not an efficient way to keep getting reps and going through it. And with that said, I want to announce that I have been working for like 10 months on some study material. I don't give away all the details yet because I'm still working on it. And when I bring it to life, I just want to show you the final product, and I think you're going to love it. But I've been working really, really, really hard to help this problem, because it's a problem that I have had in my own study and own retention and proficiency and stuff. And I want to make it way easier for you. So I'm going to be announcing more information about this soon, and it's something you'll have access to. And so if you want to be notified once I do launch this, I really encourage you to join my newsletter. I have a weekly newsletter, call it the Insiders Newsletter, where once a week I send out an important aviation lesson that I've learned, links to my latest content, and behind the scenes info, which is going to include this project that I have been working on. So you can sign up over at airplaneacademy.com/insiders. It's totally free, and you'll get all the details there. Secondly, it is really encouraging to remember that with all of this ground school material, you're really just building fluency in a new language. And if you expect to be fluent on the first pass, you're going to be disappointed, because that's an unreasonable expectation. And then you're going to be stuck in the valley of despair. But sometimes that's my expectation of like, I want to be good at this the first time. That's unrealistic. You got to build fluency, and fluency takes time. And third, I think we all have to realize that everyone else has the same challenge of memorizing all this crap just the same as we do. Some are better at it than others, but it's really easy to just feel like you're the only guy in the room that's like, what are we talking about? What does that mean? I don't understand that. That's not intuitive. So I just want to encourage you, if you've felt that, I feel that all the time. Oh my gosh. So I will raise my hand and say, this stuff is hard. And some of it doesn't make sense. And some of it takes you watching like 10 different YouTube videos before it finally clicks. So the guys that seem to have like perfect recollection and recall of this stuff have probably just been doing it longer than you, and they've had more reps with it. And so I think if you can just take anything away from this video, is that I really want you to use this word in all of your vocabulary here. It is the word yet. Instead of telling yourself that I can't land crosswinds, it's I can't land crosswinds yet. Or I don't understand weather theory. It's I don't understand weather theory yet. Or I can't keep up with air traffic control. It's I can't keep up with air traffic control yet. And that one single word, yet, can be the thing that encourages you to get through that valley of despair and go accomplish your goal of becoming a pilot. And it helps remind you that you actually have control in this. You have agency. You have a say in what happens. So there's one thing that I would really love for you to do, and that is to leave a comment sharing one of two things. Either share how you pushed through that valley of despair and it was so worth it. Or if you're currently in there, just share what you're struggling with. And I think this would be such an encouraging comment section to just read through all the transformational stories of how people got through this. Because this is, I think, probably the biggest reasons that pilots quit. This is the reason there aren't more pilots in the country right now, is because they quit for these reasons. And so in some small way, I think the comment section of this video could help people become pilots. My hope for this video is that somebody watches it and reads the comment, and it motivates them to push through and finish their license. And then 20 years from now, when they're still flying, they're going to have a son that now says, I want to be a pilot because my dad was a pilot. I'm going to get choked freaking choked up about this. I'm a crier and I don't like that. But so like, I really think 20 years from now, some kid is going to say, I want to be a pilot because my dad was a pilot. And his dad was a pilot because he read a comment in this silly little video here. They got encouraged and said, I can do it and I can push through. So I can't wait to read the stories in the comments. I got to go to freaking tissue because it's going to be awesome. But I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.